Welcome everybody, and welcome back to the Enough to Keep Going podcast. This is episode number 43. This is our GX show, as we affectionately like to call it, our gamers experience. I'm your host, Osiris Prime. I'm back. It's been a little bit since I've been on, but with me tonight we have Mr. DBQ Hams, who just rushed in to the mic. DB, how are you?
I am good. Yes, I did just rush in. This is the joys of juggling a podcast and a family. But while you are back on the podcast, Prime, I am back in my basement. I put it all
Nice.
back together. I've got a wired internet connection, and I've all better than ever. And I've got a 4K TV coming this weekend. So there is
Oh,
good news on the horizon.
some things to talk about then.
Yeah. I had been keeping my eye out on the TCL brand. So the TCL, it was the S series or the 600 series last year, and so it was relatively highly rated last year, and never really went on sale. And this new model is releasing this week, and so I decided rather than to wait for a sale, since the other one never went on sale, I'm just going to jump it and order it. So I will be entering the 4K world come this weekend.
Nice. I think Gascles, Mr. Gascles Stamos, obviously he is also here. You got a 4K TV, don't you, or monitor? I believe. Or no?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. How's it going tonight? Other than some minor illnesses.
Yeah. It's good. It's fine. We'll be all right.
Okay.
I've got a really good feeling about this.
Okay, good. I'm sure it'll go fine. All right. So tonight, actually, and if you look at the background here, I also have, this side, Mr. Master Chief is back. It's been a while since I had Master Chief up, so he's also back. So a lot of things and people are back tonight. So tonight, like I said, this is our Gamers Experience show. We're going to go over our playlists a little bit more in depth than usual. But up first, we have Mr. DBQ Hams reporting out on Skyrim VR, or virtual reality, if you don't know what that means. DB, how's your experience so far?
It's been great, actually. I've been thinking about how to approach this, right? Like, it's Skyrim, so everybody kind of has a sense of what Skyrim is, but the VR aspect kind of really changes the dynamic. So the whole reason for so again, on the playlist aspect here, right, we pick 3 games and the co-hosts choose for us and assign us something to play. So I have been playing a lot of small VR experiences and wanted to kind of dig into a little bit meatier of a full game within VR. And so the 3 games I had put up were Resident Evil 7, Wipeout Collection, and Skyrim. And so, as I said on a couple weeks ago, I'm really glad you guys didn't choose Resident Evil for me, because I wimped out relatively within the first hour of that game. So Skyrim, I completely didn't wimp out, or wipe out, actually. VR is, so it starts off, it starts off, and one of the things that I want to talk about is the control setup. Is that the movement, it defaults in kind of the teleporting way, which is kind of a cheat within VR to limit motion sickness. And I personally find it terrible. And I mean that in a way of, it just totally breaks the immersion of being in that world, where if you're looking at a spot and you have a little green dot on the ground and you click a button to go to that next spot, you're not actually immersed in that world. You're just kind of viewing it through a lens. And Doom VFR, excuse me, I need to make sure I get the F in the Doom VFR, is exactly the same way. And in Doom's case, they give a little bit of a story reason for why you move around in this kind of herky-jerky type of way. But in Skyrim's, it's the default, I think mainly because it prevents or helps control motion sickness for people that may not have a lot of VR experience, especially since it's coming in the bundle. So the Skyrim bundle comes with version 2 of the headset and Move controllers, and it could be many people's first VR experience if they pick up the PlayStation VR bundle. Skyrim VR is also now on Oculus as well, right? So it is out and available on other headsets now as well.
Now, you didn't have the first version of the headset, did you?
No, I only had the second version. I kind of well, in part I waited for price tags, but really the big difference is that the cabling is a little more tighter. They've reduced the cabling a little bit. So that it's a little more streamlined. You don't have as many cables floating around. There are headsets, they're earbuds that are wired right into the headset, so you don't have to have a second headset on to listen. And then it allows HDR pass-through. So this is where my upcoming 4K TV makes a difference, is that it before it would not do HDR pass-through, and you'd have to disconnect your PlayStation VR box in order to have 4K. So yeah, so I have the second version, and for all intents and purposes, it's running great. But Skyrim, once I changed to the motion controls, it is Prime. It was one of the coolest video game experiences I've ever had. It really is that idea of getting lost in a world, right? Like, Bethesda games are good for that in general, when you're just staring at a screen and you still see the world around you. But when you put a headset on and you feel yourself kind of walking through the hillside, and you can see off in the distance the mountains or the town or the castle, right? That suddenly it strips away all the rest of the world. And I found myself, so I played it, I'm not that far in, but I found myself playing it, and I would take a break and realize, oh, an hour has passed. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it's 90 minutes since the last time I got in here, right? I mean, it melts away your perception of time, because you get in there, you start moving around your weapons, you're attacking, you get into a town, you're talking with people, and you're at the right height. They're coming up. There's a real 3D dimension to it. So there's a lot there that really provides the immersion. And one of the things I found, and this is where I'm really curious to ask you, as somebody who's played Skyrim before, is
many times.
So playing it in VR, I had, everybody knows how Skyrim starts out, right? I mean, I guess we can spoil the 7-year-old game at this point, right? Yeah. You are going to get executed, and a dragon shows up, and so you escape. I didn't have any real desire to follow the quest line, because I was an escaped convict and wanted to just get away. So I made my way into the mountains to begin with, and I stumble on a hidden dungeon, and I mean, it's not that hidden, right? It's the Golden Claw dungeon, which may or may not make sense to people, but I kind of stumbled into that before I even got to my first town. So I really got into the combat, and I've heard other people talk about it, and I've tried multiple different weapons, right? Playing with a sword and shield, it feels very much like I'm playing on an early Wii game, where I'm slashing, right, and holding up my shield, or I can do a dual wield, but then I'm just kind of slashing around and waggling. Bow and arrow works really well in terms of pulling it back, but one of the things that I've had the most satisfaction with is magic. And I'm not usually a big kind of range weapon or magic weapon in these games, right? I usually try to do some type of melee weapon, and I spend a lot of points on persuasion and lockpicking and the idea of kind of negotiating the world through dialogue. So having a fireball in my hand and being able to cast it out with my own hand has been great. And as you level up, right, you get the ability to dual cast. So now I've got move controllers in both hands, and I can move and cross the streams and hit enemies at different ends of the map, right? At that, so it's suddenly I'm in a dungeon and skeletons are attacking me, and I can angle my hands in different directions and hit both of them at the same time because of the dual casting. So it really, again, going back to that immersion level, it's a blast. So when you play it, how do you end up approaching the game? Do you end up kind of diving in? So here's the other piece. I never really played Skyrim beyond the initial introduction piece. So all of this is new to me. So is this just Skyrim excitement that I'm finally catching up with, or am I describing something different because it's in VR?
No, yeah, that's pretty much what this game is you're gonna get lost in the world as soon as you get into it. And I think I mentioned to this before, and I think even to you in the chat and stuff like that. But when I first started playing, I might have done, excuse me, I might have done like one or two of the main quest line, and then it was just like, here's the world, and you can pretty much go anywhere you want. I mean, obviously, I can't really remember. I don't think it really kind of levels up with you, I think, but there's still areas where obviously there's more powerful enemies than you, so you obviously got to be careful, and you can pick and choose where you're going to go. But yeah, I mean, you can just be walking along, and there's like somebody like laid out or something, and you can somebody's like bending over them trying to help them, and then you can help them out, and there's just all kinds of stuff that you can do in this game. It's pretty wild. You can even you can do some hunting and stuff like that, which you don't really have to really. You can use the pelts from animals for things, but I mean, you can find that stuff pretty much everywhere in the world. But yeah, I mean, you are finally seeing, what everybody's been talking about, for all these years, where, you just kind of get immersed and lost in this world. And now as far as I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I mean, I think that's exciting to hear, because if it's that immersive when you're playing it on, the 360 or the PlayStation 3, or now in the, a Switch or a PlayStation 4, playing it in VR totally is even, I can't say it's even more immersive, but for me, it's the most immersive VR experience that I've played, right? I've had a lot of fun playing little games in VR because they're kind of cool in the dimensions. But this is one of the first VR games where I really feel like I'm in that world. And so yeah, it's great. You were going to ask about controls before I rave a little bit more.
Yeah, and right before I do that, now, well, I'll ask about the controls. I'll ask about this later. So as far as like when you're doing the slashing and even the magic and stuff, is it 1-to-1, or is it still a little bit of a lag there?
On the slashing, it feels pretty much 1-to-1. Yeah. On the magic, basically you're holding down a button and angling, and you still have your magic meter, right? So you can run out or while it refills. The controls, so you can play it with DualShock, which will then just play like any other Skyrim game, or if you play it with two Move controllers, then the left-hand controller, if you hold down the button and angle it, you will move around the world, right? It allows you to turn. Angling it rotates your head, and pushing the button means you walk forward. So you can turn it and walk, and then your other hand then becomes your interaction hand, whether that's attacking or pickpocketing and lock picking or stealing. There's all different. Any type of interaction you have then is with your right hand.
So you are playing with the motion controls then, DB?
Yes, yeah, I'm playing with motion controls. I haven't even tried it with DualShock, in part because it would just play like any other game. So playing it with motion controls definitely provides a lot more immersion for me. I think the one thing that it takes a little bit to get used to in terms of like how do you quickly turn around or adjusting. So the ability to kind of move and angle with the motion control, but then you have on the other controller, you can use the face buttons to do kind of quick incremental turns. So if you kind of get stuck up against a wall and you need to make a quick turn to be able to see the enemy that's attacking you, you can make those quick turns, right? It's the same as the ability to quickly move your mouse wheel to spin around and see something. That it provides some of that, and it took me a while to get used to. Like I moved kind of clunky for the first part, and then as I got used to that, I became a lot more fluid in terms of when I got into a battle, that I wasn't just kind of running away and hoping to keep hitting them, that I could kind of navigate that a little bit more. So the controls aspect of that definitely does take some time. I think the other piece of the controls part that took time for me is the menus. That you're using motion controls to kind of navigate the menu. So you're holding a button and kind of swiping up and down. That's less than ideal. Eventually I got used to it and kind of figured out the degree of movement to be able to move the cursor from items to the map to to my weapons. So those are things that you definitely get used to. Prime, when you play, how's the leveling up system? So in this one, it's kind of like a constellation, and you're connecting dots along your stars for different skill sets.
Right.
But this is I guess the downside of the cool thing is it's in 3D, and you can look all around and you see it in this big circular kind of nebula space, that you're actually kind of standing in the middle of a star field, which looks kind of cool. But being able to navigate up and down that chain is a little more cumbersome, because it's not just as simple as moving the joystick up and down, or to be able to get to that next menu, you've got to do a motion control up, and it's not as precise. Motion controls when you're out in the field and moving around feel kind of natural because it's a body. Motion controls navigating text always feels a little more clunky because it's never going to be as precise as a key input.
Yeah, I mean, even with a controller, it's kind of janky. Like when you're trying to.
Well, it is a Bethesda game, right?
Yeah. So you push up, and you want to push straight up, but it goes off to one of the sides. So I mean, you got to be pretty precise too, even with a controller. So it's not too far off as far as the menu navigation.
So I'm loving that aspect of it, and I here's the caveat is it looks like I'm playing Morrowind. So, I'm graphics wise, the textures in the world are pretty flat. The landscape is pretty flat. It's kind of blocky. When you get into towns feel pretty good. The humanoid characters, right, feel good. They're the appropriate height. They're 3D. They move well. There's a sense of that you're talking to a 3D model, so it doesn't just feel like it's a flat, a flat mapped onto a polygon. So that part feels really well. But I think they've limited the textures and the polygons out in the world in order to allow it to run as smooth as it does as you're moving around. So if you're used to a beautiful HD world, it's definitely, I could see where it could be jarring. And there were reviews out at the time and YouTube videos about people saying, kind of complaining about how it looks compared to the remastered editions. But I guess if you're willing to accept the trade-off in graphical fidelity for immersion, this is it's well worth that trade-off.
Now you're playing. You have a PS4 Pro or just a regular?
Yeah, I have a PS4 Pro.
Oh,
yep.
Okay.
So
if that would make any difference or not?
So I have read on, looking at some Reddit threads and a couple of YouTube videos about the difference between a Pro and so a little bit is the smoothness and the amount of detail. So it runs about the same in terms of frame rates, but you get on a Pro, you get a little more detail. So if you're running it on just a OG or a slim PlayStation 4, I could see where it would not be, you'd be missing some of that detail as well.
So you had mentioned some of the non-human players. Now I don't know which, have you run into the lizard people or the cat people or anything?
Run into the cat people. Yeah, I can't remember the names of them either, but yeah. Yep.
Okay, so when you're looking at them, can you see their whiskers kind of going off from their head, or is it kind of just a flat wrapped around their face, or
no, it protrudes out. Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think that's where on the characters there's a little more care done. So your elf's ears stick out, your whiskers stick out, right? It feels like a 3D head. It doesn't. I think that's been the thing I've really been kind of impressed with, is that when I'm standing and playing this game standing, I think makes a difference as well. Is that I'm standing, walking through the world, and I'm standing then talking to those characters, and it feels it's, you know, I don't know what other word to describe it besides immersive, right? I really lose myself in the game, and that's a new experience in a different way by doing it in VR versus just kind of, you know, this is coming from, you know, I spent 120 hours in Fallout 3 in New Vegas. And so I get used to, you know, losing myself in those worlds, but it feels different when you're not staring at the screen, when you're in the screen.
Yeah, I think this game lends itself a little bit better for that too, because it's not, you know, like super fast paced like Doom would be, I guess, you know, or like a shooter. So I mean, there can be kind of, you know, you'll come up to some of the fortresses and stuff where there's like, you know, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys, but usually, I mean, if you're careful, you can only, you know, you'll just pull out like 2 or 3 maybe at a time. So yeah, hopefully, I don't know if you've come to that yet, come up to like a large group of people that you had to battle.
Yeah, not too much. I think maybe at the most I've had like 4 or 5 on a screen at once.
And you're able to navigate, you know, like in between, like fighting each of them.
Yeah, well. Yep. And in some ways, because now dual casting, you know, with the motion controls, I can actually attack 2 of them at once from different parts of the screen.
Oh, that's pretty cool that you can do that. I'm glad they kind of thought about that too. Now that you have that freedom, you know, of your hands.
Yeah, I don't know that there's you know, a 1-to-1 comparison with a keyboard or a joystick. So
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's you know, it's Skyrim, but it's successfully done, right? I think if people are out there with a VR and they haven't had a chance to play it, or people that really love Skyrim or that kind of that world, it's you know, keep an eye out for more of those sales as the PSVR price drops. You know, I played it some more this weekend and lost time, and I walked away really feeling like it's a game where I could see that this is a game I could keep playing on and off for a long time, right? If this was a world that I eventually get invested in, I don't know that I could, you know, the fear of VR where people just want to live in that world. I could see where we're on that curve, right? Like if the graphical fidelity of this was the same as the Xbox One, then the immersion of this would be even greater, and the detachment from the physical realm would be even more. It'd be even easier to accomplish. You know, I think one of the things that I found myself doing is as I'm standing and playing, I'm standing up against a piece of furniture, so I have just a sense of where I am in the room, which kind of tends to ground me a little bit. So as I lose myself in navigating, you know, I can remember, okay, I'm still here. And, you know, it's that kind of connection back to the, you know, the real world. It's my phone line back out of the Matrix. So yeah, so that is, this is you know, I'm happy to answer more questions about what Skyrim is like, but it's Skyrim and you get to be a little more immersed in it. So I'm glad you guys chose it for me. It gave me a reason to kind of finally peel back and play. You know, I had it since Christmas time, and it was one of those where in some ways it was just a little daunting to kind of dive in, or the time commitment aspect of it. So I really am glad that this was the game that you guys chose for me.
Nice. Yeah, I'm glad you liked it. I guess, Cleese, did you have any other questions that you want to throw at him?
I do, but I'm trying not to turn it into a VR episode.
That's all right.
we would be here a long time.
So yeah, well, go ahead and ask one, and we can use it as a plug for seeding a future podcast then.
I guess I mean I'm surmising that because your setup is a little more COTS than kind of being your own system configurator. I'm guessing that your setup time to playtime ratio is probably significantly better than mine, right? So, I mean, how much time does it take you to break all the VR gear out, get it hooked up, do a smoke test to verify that it's all working properly, and then And then once you've done that, so how much time does that take roughly? And then once you've done that, about how much time do you play Skyrim VR in one sitting?
I guess I played it probably in like half hour to hour sittings on average. Right. Okay. Maybe a little longer, like I said before, but the nice, and this was the real benefit of PSVR, and I think this is where we save this conversation for a different podcast, is it takes me, I plug in 2 HDMI cables into a box on the front of my PlayStation and a USB port, and I put the headset on, and that's it. So within a minute, I'm up and running, and then I'm logging into PlayStation just like any other game. So there's no test, there's no recalibration. It is, my camera stays in the same spot, so I'm not moving that around. So it reduces the time to game to the point where it's no different than digging out a controller and, waiting for the amount of time that a 360 would have taken to boot. I'm already up and playing.
Okay. And is the camera being used for inside-out tracking? Or what is that being used for?
So the headset on a PlayStation VR has multiple lights around the sides of it. And so the camera is tracking that. And so it's tracking that and the glow of the PlayStation Move.
Right. Okay. Yep.
All right. So, but this is more than just my turn to rave about VR. So Prime, you have not been on here in a while. So what have you been playing?
Yeah, it's been a while. I've been playing a lot of games recently, a lot of different games. I'm just going to go through a few here. First off, I'm going to start with little family gaming that I've been doing recently. As usual with my son, I've been playing kind of back and forth with Minecraft and Rocket League. He's been playing a lot of Minecraft lately, even just by himself. So I'll jump on there every once in a while and play with him. We have our own little world that we go through and play. So it's nice. He's just unbelievable. Like some of the stuff that he'll make. I can't believe that he makes some of these structures and stuff. So he watches a lot of YouTube videos of this one guy on YouTube, just how he builds stuff, and he's kind of doing like kind of the beginner guide. So I think that's where he learned a lot. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, and then also Rocket League, of course, playing a little bit of that, not so much. And like I said, more so on Minecraft. And then with my wife, played a little bit of. We played some Dr. Mario a couple weeks ago, actually, a couple weekends ago. So that's always fun. And I think she likes to play that because she really can kick my butt in that game. So I don't know what it is about this game, but I just can't wrap my mind around it, I guess, sometimes. And she's usually, on top for most games. So yeah, those two, or I should say those 3 games that we've been playing.
You said you're playing those both on the Switch?
No, Minecraft and Rocket League we were playing on Xbox One.
Okay.
And then Dr. Mario I actually played on the Wii U, which I still have hooked up in my living room, just because I know she likes to play that. And sometimes we'll play. There's another game that we used to play, and I can't remember what it is. Excuse me, we haven't played it in a while, but yeah. So on the Wii U, we're playing that one. So going back to the predecessor there of the Switch. So, but yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and I've just kind of on my own. I've been playing Minecraft and Rocket League on the Switch for the most part. I usually don't play too much on Xbox right now, but let's go to you, Mr. Agassicles. You've been playing something. You're going back to another system yourself on the PS3.
Yeah, I've kind of been all over the place, both old and new. So part of my backlog gaming is so this month is a month that I do kind of some of my gaming sessions are calibration runs, so I try and make sure that I hit platforms that I didn't play the preceding month. So this month I had on my list to make absolutely certain that I spent some time on the Switch and on the PlayStation 3. And just before the month ended and closed out yesterday, I did exactly that on the PlayStation 3. So I popped in Rainbow Six Vegas 2 and continued playing through the single-player campaign, which is a campaign that I never finished all the way through. Actually really enjoying it despite its age. I played tons and tons and tons of Terrorist Hunt on Rainbow Six, and surprisingly, I was really surprised at how engaging the missions are, because I've probably played the first couple missions like dozens of times and then still never finished the game. But so I'm well past where where I've ever played up to previously. And I actually like the single player missions as set pieces, because the Tangos are actually deployed in strategic areas in an effort to give you a hard time or progress the story or whatever. Whereas Terrorist Hunt, they're just randomly strewn throughout the map and they spawn out of crazy places. So it's been pretty interesting to play it.
Yeah, I remember finishing the first Rainbow Six. I don't remember if I ever finished the second one, but yeah, those were definitely fun games. I know you guys. I think you guys on the old CAG site used to play a lot. I don't know if you ever got into that.
I never. I never got into it on the CAG site.
Okay.
Swissguard and I used to play, and another friend of ours named Jack, who we used to work with, used to get up early Saturday and Sunday mornings back when we were, at least Jack and I were probably both having our first kids, and Swiss may have been on his first or second, but back when that was the only time we could try and get away with playing before screaming children got up. So now mine scream today, but they are a little more capable of wiping their own bottoms and getting at least some semblance of food for themselves in the first couple hours in the morning. But yeah, we used to play a good deal. So it's been kind of nice and nostalgic going back and playing through it.
Nice.
So DB, you've been playing instead of in the past. You've been playing in the. Well, I guess you kind of went back to the future and then came back to the present with some baseball.
Yes, yeah. So again, what was that, last month? I guess last month we talked about MLB The Show 18, and I raved about it then in terms of its graphics, and it is a beautiful game. But I have gone back to MLB The Show 17, and I guess I'll say the reason I think is the progression system. So one of the things that 18 does is that instead of giving you points to then distribute across your character, right? You want to put in a fastball or a curveball or batting against right-handers or left-handers. That 18 rewards or doles out points or based on what you do, right? So you field well, you get a point in fielding or reaction time. If you hit well against a right-hander, you get contact against a right-hander increases 1, or so it rewards you for that, which makes it pretty realistic, right? You only get better by getting better at something rather than kind of grinding your way up and putting points into something. But the challenge there is that, so I like to play a pitcher and bat because it's a video game. So why not, right? Why can't I do it all, right? If there's only a few active players in the league and some of them are on the Angels this season that can do both. But the challenge there is in the system of how it upgrades, is that if you don't get a whole lot of chances at bat or they pinch hit for you, you never get a chance to level up your ability. Or you only get a chance once a week to do a little bit of training, but then the training is predetermined. Like you get a set of 3 things. So you don't even necessarily get a chance to say, oh, well, I want to increase my plate vision so that when I get up against right, you can't even go out and practice. If you think about this in a realistic way, I can't go back out onto the field and just take some batting practice in order to increase my skill. And so part of that kind of turned me off to it, and I went back to kind of finish up a character that I had gotten halfway through a season with on 17. And so 18 is reading some Reddit threads. 18 has some fielding problems, and they continue to kind of roll out some patches. So the server stability is better than it was in 17. There's some gameplay pieces. The pitch velocity they've been tweaking that. So I have gone back to the past in my baseball season here. So Prime, you have moved off into a dystopian future in your gameplay here. You've been picking up what I'm guessing is one of the games with gold with Mad Max.
Actually, this was from Game Pass. So
okay.
I still have that going from
nice.
From when I got it for Sea of Thieves. So I think I got it like a month, but that's passed now. So I'm paying for another month right now. So yeah, I figured this Game Pass actually might help me with not buying stuff all the time, at least on the Xbox. Switch is a whole another story. But yeah, so I picked up Mad Max, or I should say I downloaded Mad Max. And I've been playing. This is one of the first games that I've started playing for our streaming for the E2KG network. So I've started from the very beginning. I never played it before. And I'm going through, I think I've done a couple episodes so far. But yeah, it's pretty fun so far. I believe this is from the developers or the studio that did Just Cause 3, if I'm not mistaken. And I can't remember the name right now. I think it's Avalanche Studios. I'm correct. If someone could check that for me. But yeah, so, you know, open world. Right now, I'm at the very beginning, so I think I can go anywhere if I want or really wanted to, but I'm pretty much staying with the story right now. I'm not really sure if there is even side quests. I'm assuming there is, because it's kind of an open world. You can jump in your vehicle and you can drive around and stuff. So it's pretty cool. The gameplay or the fighting kind of reminds me of what's the Shadow of War, the Middle Earth. I can't remember what the name is.
Like the Arkham style in terms of
that kind of yeah, you kind of jump around. You can just, you know, as long as you flip up or down or wherever the enemy is, you'll go toward that enemy. So it's kind of cool. I played a little bit. I've played a little bit of Arkham and Shadow of War, so I was kind of a little bit familiar with it. So I was pretty much used to that. So it's pretty cool. You get weapons. Ammo seems pretty limited right now. I'm assuming it might stay like that, because otherwise, you know, that's pretty easy just to, you know, shoot out somebody and kill them right away. So, and I believe the only other weapon I've seen is like a shiv or a knife, which I think it's only one use too, because I've only been able to use it one time. Kind of like almost like a finisher type of move. Like after you do a couple combos, then, you know, it prompts you to, you know, finish them off with a knife. So I've only been able to do that once. So, not a whole lot as far as I've seen so far as weapons, but like I said, I'm pretty early in the game. So graphically, it looks, well, I won't say it looks pretty, but it's, you know, just kind of, you know, barren wasteland kind of environment. So it's not, you know, the prettiest thing in the world, you know, as far as, you know, aesthetics, but I mean, graphically, it looks really good. So they did a really good job with all the NPCs and, you know, the player yourself, you know, so it's pretty cool. I'm having a good time with it. Have you guys tried that out? I don't know if you guys played it.
I haven't. No, I mean the combat piece makes sense because it's published by Warner Brothers, so that would fit within the Batman Shadow of Mordor type of combo systems.
Yeah, the one thing I did notice, and I guess I'm kind of getting a little tired of, is just kind of the gruff, you know, antagonist that you play. You know, he kind of looks like the guy from Last of Us. You know, who kind of looks like, you know. I don't want to say a lot, but a little bit like Drake, you know, if he's kind of scruffy or a little bit more scruffy looking, but, you know, it's always, you know, like kind of bowl cut, kind of messy hair, beard, or, you know, kind of a scruff look. And I don't know, I guess maybe it just, played so many games nowadays, you know, and just in 3D and everything. It's just, I don't know, I guess I'm kind of getting tired of that, you know, person that you know, they put you into. So I think I'm ready for, you know, something else. So we'll see. Which kind of leads into my next game, but I'll wait till that one for the, you know, my next go around here. So, Mr. Gascles, looks like you're playing a little bit of original Destiny, or is this Destiny 2?
This is OG Destiny.
Okay.
So I've, you know, eventually finally wound myself around to playing one character in each class on that. I still have never actually completed all of the DLC. Which I guess, you know, eventually was made available to everyone, or like all the DLC packs were bundled into, you know, really cost-effective bundles. So at one point, I just went ahead and plunked down for everything. So, so I am playing through, again, either through the regular single-player campaign, or in the case of my Titan, who's level 40 or whatever, I'm running around trying to do the missions associated with the DLC. So that was pretty fun. I can see now that I'm specifically kind of on the hunt for very specific, or, you know, exemplary pieces of gear to kind of, before I'll ever find anything that breaks, you know, what I have already. I'm kind of at the point where everything that I find now is kind of at the same power level or whatever.
So I've got a systems question.
Yeah,
Since you and I talked about Destiny 2 last fall, how does it feel coming back to it? Like I've poked around back in it as well, and there's things I like, and there's things that I am very glad that they've changed. What are your thoughts coming back to it?
I'm fine with it. At the end of the day, Destiny for me has always been about. It's kind of like a. It's a very specific thing, right? And I accept that it tries to do a lot and it doesn't do everything well. And so I really play for the one thing that it does do well, which is like mechanically and in terms of the physics model, and the ballistics model and the weapons handling. It's to me it nailed the formula for any first person shooter, and quite honestly, in certain ways, feels better than the physics engine and the ballistics model in Destiny 2. Although I'm pretty sure recent patches have accelerated things like how quickly you can bring the weapon to the ready after transitioning to a new weapon and things like that. But yeah, I've been fine with it from a mechanical perspective. Again, there's a lot of stuff that I don't play, right? I don't play Crucible, so I'm not really impacted by any of the changes and shenanigans that they've been doing in that space.
All right, cool. All right. So let's go. Actually, let me jump into my last game here real quick. So another game I've been playing for the streaming. I don't think I mentioned this. I've been streaming on Mixer. I've been playing Ghost Recon Wildlands. That one I actually bought. So it was on sale. They had a sale on Xbox, I think, a couple weeks ago. I think it was like $25. So it was a pretty good deal.
I think the base collection was the base was $20.
Yeah, so I jumped on that, so that was cool. I think there's been a couple of DLCs now. I know they had the Predator one and something else. I can't remember what it was.
There's a Sam Fisher one, right? There's a Splinter Cell. Yep.
Yeah. So and I originally I did play the beta for this, or demo, whatever you want to call it, back before it was released, and I was kind of lukewarm on it. But actually playing it now, and I don't know why. I'm really enjoying the game now. And once again, I'm really, at the beginning of this game too. I've only had maybe a couple hours playtime, if even that. But I don't know. The controls are pretty spot on, and shooting's pretty good as far as I could tell so far. You got all kinds of gadgets they can use. A little drone that you can, like when you go on a mission, you can fly it around and tag all the enemies, so you know how many people are there and their kind of movements. So you kind of, if you want, you can sneak in and try to take everybody out, which I fail usually. So somebody always spots me. So, and I guess the only kind of real bad thing, and I know this is you're probably supposed to play this as a co-op game, but the AI kind of stinks. Your teammates when it's just the AI controlling them. They kind of just sit there sometimes. I mean, I think you can control them. I still haven't figured that out yet. I can give commands and stuff like that. But
so good to hear that the legacy continues.
That's right. Nothing's changed. Right. This is the PC, because I remember playing on the PC back.
And they would just walk directly in front of your line of yeah.
They're not that bad though. At least they haven't run in front of me yet. But they're pretty bad. They kind of just sit back there sometimes. I've gone up and taken out 4 or 5 guys, and I look back and they're still standing way back there. I'm like, oh, fine, that's fine. I've taken them out. But that's kind of been bad, obviously, because there's one kind of side mission that I was doing where there's a helicopter of, I think medicine or something that you're supposed to try to capture. But I killed a few guys and I got spotted. And one of the, I think it's the captain you're supposed to kill or to free the area. He jumps in the helicopter and goes away. So I failed the mission. So it's oh man, that kind of sucks, because those guys are just sitting back there. I couldn't get everybody. So still, I'm having a good time with it. And I think initially when I was playing the beta, it's this big open world. You're in, I can't remember, Venezuela or Argentina or somewhere in South America, or somewhere down there. So it did remind me a lot of Just Cause 3. I think because I had been playing that at that time, it kind of threw me that I couldn't just parachute and wing glide my way around the island. I have to either be on foot or in a vehicle. So a lot of times now, if there's something downhill, I'll just go straight downhill instead of taking the roads like you probably should, so you don't crash the vehicle and kill all your teammates. But I've been having a good time with it, so I'm gonna stick with that. It's pretty cool. So, Mr. I guess, please. we got one more thing I think for you, Rec Room, kind of.
Yeah, so our old friend and pal, original mentor and OG, Gray Lock 3491. He actually responded in response to one of our recruiting tweets that we've been putting out, and wanted to get together and try and rejoin us in terms of creating content. And I went back to him, and his impression was we recorded too late for him, and I said, well, look, we can look at flexing the schedule if we want to try something, start something new. And he was definitely interested in playing some VR together and maybe trying to make a podcast out of that. So we're spooling up those efforts. And so on Sunday night, we wound up getting together just kind of as a dry run or play test, and played this game called Rec Room, which is a game on Steam, and is really kind of this Portal-y kind of game that allows you to jump off into lots and lots of different branches of gaming based on who has created content for VR. So we definitely had some technical difficulties that we had to work through. So both, at the operating system level and with regard to the supporting hardware and the VR headset, some things with how Steam handles and how the Windows mixed reality modal windows work, and how they, how to use them when you're having a problem or just know when to force close that as an application and try something different. So, but once we sorted through that, we did get maybe 45 minutes of gameplay in, and probably the best thing we played was a paintball game. So essentially there's like a little first-person shooter inside this whole Rec Room thing. And the Rec Room has dozens of activities to participate in that are all VR experiences. But we found one room that was a paintball, and even though it did utilized the teleporting mechanism that DBQ talked through at the top of the show, it uses that method for moving, and that's really bothersome, right? So I think eventually both Gray and I got a little more comfortable playing in it and figuring out how to try and shift our minds to that mindset. But it was so hard. But we still had loads of fun. We scored kills. We got hit. We came into the room and very quickly were at parity with everybody else who was playing. So kind of feels like the days of first-person shooters before Modern Warfare.
So you were playing against real people then?
Oh yeah, yes, yeah. There's, as far as I can tell, there's no bots anywhere in any of the Rec Room activities, but yeah, definitely the paintball was definitely real people.
So then,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I played paintball on for PSVR. Rec Room is free. Is it free for Oculus and mixed reality then?
It is free and it is cross-play, so expect to get an invite from Gray and I.
Excellent. That'd be fun. Yeah, paintball's a blast. I've played it. My son has played it. When he's had friends over, it's one of the games that he shows off with VR because it's relatively easy to pick up and intuitive.
Yeah.
So if I remember, I think Gray has the Oculus, right?
So Gray has the Oculus, and he recently procured the same headset that I have, which is the Acer AH101. Which is just basically their Windows mixed reality, their first edition, Windows mixed reality headset. So,
okay,
yeah.
So then are there like, not Move controllers, but like special controllers with those then?
Yeah. So the Windows mixed reality, I wish I probably should have brought them over here to show them to you. But the Windows mixed reality, there is a standard kind of set of Bluetooth-based controllers that all of the Windows mixed reality headsets utilize or are compatible with. Basically, because the headset doesn't really. Well, I guess the headset does have an interface with the controls, and so it does use them. But yeah, those with my set, they came with it.
All right, cool. All right, so that should be, hopefully we'll be seeing more content from you guys, and maybe DB will jump in there.
Yeah, I don't know. There is a recording problem with trying to game capture or live stream VR in that the output if you intercept the video stream, the output is stereoscopic, so you get both windows for both eyes, right? I mean, at the end of the day, 3D kind of takes two TVs and puts them in front of you. It orients the optics so that they blend together and have depth. So there are ways around that. We tried one. We tried an application called Steam VR Capture, I think, or Capture VR. That that worked for me the first night, but I can't figure out how to get the video out because it says it's an MPEG-4, but it won't open in a video editor. And the native format that he captured in, again, captured those two panels. And I'm like, well, I don't know what the heck I'm supposed to do with that. But then I also tried to run, when Gray and I were online playing together, I tried to run OBS concurrently at the same time that I was playing the game. And it eventually stopped spooling video. And then eventually it kept on for a while just with the voice recording. But then after, another bit of time, it just locked up and wouldn't, just stopped recording at all. So I'm experimenting on my end and trying to come up with different hardware setups that can effectively record the output.
All right, cool. Well, hopefully you can find something suitable. All right, DB, if you want to maybe real fast jump into your last game, and then that kind of dovetails into Agasicles Plays, which Mr. Agasicles Stamos will give us his 3 games for us to pick for him.
So I'm just going to go quick because I haven't spent a whole lot of time with it yet, but I have had a chance to dive in a little bit with God of War and play the intro and a little bit past there. And so as a father, and I think it's definitely really interested in what it seems to be doing. Artistically, stylistically, I'm really loving it. So I'll be curious to see how it sustains itself within the story and within gameplay, and I'm even more excited to throw it up on my 4K TV at the end of this weekend to see how it looks as well. So maybe next time we do a experience show that I might have a little bit more to talk through, but I think the hype around it is well earned, and we'll see where it goes from there.
All right, cool. No VR mode in that game. All right, so let's jump into Mr. Agasicles Plays segment here. So go ahead, let us know what 3 games you got for us, and then we will let you know what we picked.
Yeah, so at the time when it was time for me to make my pick, I was playing Forza Horizon, and I was going to give you guys like 3 variants of Forza Horizon / Forza Motorsport and pick one of those for me to play. I didn't think that would necessarily be exciting for you guys, although it would be fun for me. So I juggled a few different ways to come at it, and what I settled on was I would offer up 3 of the most recent releases for the PlayStation 4 that are tracking very well in terms of aggregated scores on Metacritic. So the first one is God of War, second one is Far Cry 5, and the third one is Burnout Paradise Remastered. So let me say, for all of these, I've played some amount of them. I've gotten into the introduction of the campaigns. God of War, I've probably played maybe 4 hours in. Far Cry 5, I've maybe played 8 hours in. So with that being said, make your selections, gentlemen.
All right, cool. DB, I think you got Swiss's selection. Oh, I think you're muted.
Oh, I'm not. I am muted.
There you go.
Yes. I was hiding Swiss's selection. So
we don't
yes,
know.
I do have it, but I'll hold it to see if we. Well, yeah, I'll go ahead and put Swiss out there. So what he wants is, he knows how much of a fan Agasicles is of open world racers and the lack of structure in his game. So he wants to see how Burnout Paradise plays now, and if time has been any kinder to it after a series of other Forza games that you just were talking about. So that is Swiss's vote. How about you, Prime? Do you have your vote, or do you want mine?
Yeah, go ahead and do yours.
Okay.
I want to see what you got.
So I, as much as I am interested to have a Burnout Paradise discussion, but after playing God of War this weekend, I really want to talk about it from a gameplay perspective, from an artistic perspective, from a parenting perspective. There's so many times when I want Kratos to do something as a parent that he just is incapable of doing at this point. So I want to see where that story continues to go, and I'd love to talk about it with with Agastocles as well. So my vote is for God of War.
All right. Well, gentlemen, it looks like we have a tie this week because my pick was Far Cry 5. And my reason for that was from what I've read, I haven't played it yet. From what I've read and what I've seen, it's kind of I don't want to say too silly, but it's kind of it can get kind of silly, I guess, at times, almost kind of like a Just Cause type of game, where you can just kind of go wild in the world. And I wanted to get a perspective from one of us to actually see how that's gonna play out.
So this is why we need our fourth chair here, right? We need our fifth person to be able to break the tie.
I don't know if we've ever had.
We have never had a tie because there's been times when people have bit the bullet and settled it off site. So yes, Agastocles, this is the first time that we've hit a tie. So.
Yeah, so I guess our two options would be adding the fourth person doesn't necessarily help because that's what we were trying to avoid when it was just two people, because then you could get 2 and 2. The problem is we never envisioned the mathematical scenario that 3 co-hosts would all vote for one of 3 different games. So one thing might be to reduce the number of choices to 2 games, and keep the 3 count vote the same. In this evening's case, I think I had always envisioned that in this instance that it would be host choice. So DBQ, see what you get when you give up the host chair for the evening. The other option would be to flip a coin and cast the additional vote wherever the coin may lie.
How would the coin work though?
So for a 3-way, I think we should just do host choice. That way it can be a little, I think we can roll with that and apply it to other times as well.
A little human driven rather than sheer randomness.
Yeah. Okay. Well, my kind of. Well, I guess, yeah, we'll just do that. I don't want to complicate it anymore.
Well, you could change your vote, right? You could definitely change your vote.
Yeah, but I'm not going to.
that would still be host choice.
That is true. Yeah. In this case, yeah. So no, yeah, I'll then okay. Then I'm gonna say Far Cry 5. Then I'm gonna break the hearts of DBQ and Mr. Swissguard. I'm sorry. I want to see more of this game.
Okay.
See how it plays out.
There we go.
Yes. All right. So I think
I think I can accommodate playing both DB. So I'll put a little time in on both over the next few weeks, and we should still be able to talk God of War.
So I'll be interested to see if you're playing Far Cry 5 and Prime, you're going to dive in a little bit more into Wildlands since you picked it up. You know, that idea of kind of the big open world that is, the story kind of takes itself seriously, but the world interactions don't necessarily take themselves too seriously. So I think there could be some good discussion between those two games and how they compare.
Yeah, and both Ubisoft. So maybe I know a lot of times people kind of compare their games, saying they're kind of samey. So maybe we can this is a good opportunity to see if that's actually the case this time around. So we'll see. All right, guys. Yep.
Okay.
All right. Any before we head off here, any plugs for anything? DB, Agastocles? No. All right. I would just
say check out our 2 episodes from last week. Both. The new show on Thursday and the core show from last week, we had guests from either the GWW or former members of Geeks Worldwide on both of those episodes last week. So we will be trying to do that some more, trying to get out and touch base with other podcast hosts and get them to participate in our show or us be on their show or whatever. And also on the hunt for new recruits, one of which joined this week. So Jonathan Reyes should be making his premiere on the network here pretty shortly. A new addition to the games crew.
All right, cool. Yeah, it's good to have new blood to mess around with too. And then of course we have our Thursday show, our new show coming up here, E2 Gauging in 30, and I believe it is you, Agastocles, and Swiss this coming Thursday. So for me, just like I mentioned here, I've been streaming on Mixer, so kind of a tentative schedule. It's kind of Tuesday or Saturday that I'll be streaming. So catch me on Osiris_Prime. Catch me doing either Mad Max or Ghost Recon. So that is episode number 43 in the books for May 1st, 2018. For our guest, Clea Stamos and DBQ Hams, we will see you next time.